December 18th, 2024. We have a public hearing. It's a modification/fee waiver request for NBM Realty LLC. Town planner update, old and new business, and then adjournment. First, we'll do the approval of the minutes of December 11th, 2024. Any corrections, comments, whatever? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
For December 11th.
11th, 2024. Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor? Very good. Okay, a motion for the minutes of December 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of December 18th, 2024.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, all right. Okay, next on the agenda, we have our public hearing for NBM Realty modification slash fee waivers. Tom, would you read the legal notice, please?
Yep. In accordance with the provisions of the Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, Section 20-23, and 760 CMR 56, comprehensive permit, low or moderate income housing, 56.05, local hearings, parentheses 11, changes after issuance of a permit. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on the request of Matt St. Laurent, STL Group LLC, on behalf of NBM Realty LLC, P.O. Box 638, Sturbridge, Massachusetts. The applicant seeks modifications of previously approved comprehensive permit under Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, which permitted the construction of an apartment complex known as 5 Leaves of Sturbridge at 152-158 Main Street, Sturbridge. The subject property is owned by NBM Realty LLC. Specifically, the applicant seeks a waiver of the water and sewer fees required by condition A.10 of approval, which states, parentheses, the applicant shall pay all fees of the town of Sturbridge imposed generally in respect of construction projects and for the purposes of monitoring compliance of the construction and occupancy of the project in accordance with the comprehensive permit unless otherwise waived in this decision, end parentheses. The hearing will be held at Veterans Memorial Hall at the Town Hall, 308 Main Street, Sturbridge, on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. Diane Trapasso, Chair, Sturbridge Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, now we'll have the applicant make their presentation, please.
How you doing? I'm Matt St. Laurent for NBM Realty. As discussed at the previous meeting, we were looking for a waiver of the water and sewer fees. And as I previously mentioned, this is in conjunction with reducing the project size from 97 units to 60. The water and sewer fees for us to actually complete the project and not reduce the quality of material. The water and sewer fees are a large obstacle to overcome. For instance, if we went with the 60-unit proposal, annually we would be paying $60,000 every year just to fund and finance the water and sewer fees. If we went with the 97-unit option, we're paying around $100,000 annually to fund the water and sewer fees. Over the lifetime of the loan for the 60-unit option, we would pay roughly $1.3 million for the water and sewer fees, and if we went with the 97-unit option, we pay around $2.2 million for the lifetime of the loan. There's two ways that we thought to go about to try to reduce the amount of units and offset the costs. Would be clearly to waive the water and sewer fees, and we'd be willing to pay what we were initially told verbally, around $12,500 per building. The water and sewer fees are so high that we essentially need to reduce the quality of material and aesthetics, or we need to increase the project size. Last time we went through the process of approval, the increase in unit count, I don't think would be beneficial to us or the town, or any residents for the town. So we're here today to ask for a waiver of the water and sewer fees.
Okay. All right, I will have Jean Bourbon, the town planner, do her report.
So, as you're aware, I've been working with town council, trying to figure out an appropriate way to handle this request. And so you've gone through that first part and determined this is significant change warranting public hearing. At the advice of council, she suggested that we hear from the water and sewer commissioners, as they are the ones that set the fees. And so this evening, I've asked Heather Blakely, our DPW director, to be here, as she advises the Board of Selectmen on all matters related to water and sewer fees. And I've also asked Robin Grimm to be here in case there are any questions that the board needs answered from her. And Jamie Goodwin is in the audience. He's the chair of the Board of Selectmen. And so, as I had told the board at the previous meeting, there were several things that we need to look at when considering a waiver of the fees. And one is, what would the water and sewer commissioners do? Because they're ultimately responsible for that. The second is, are our fees reasonable? And are they applied evenly, kind of across the realm of projects that we have in town? So along those lines, I've asked Heather to provide you with a calculation of the fees, and she will go over those fees with you. And I also asked her about consistency with area communities, and she'll speak to that a little bit as well. So I think if we start with the fees, and then we can move on from there.
Okay.
Good evening. So I did provide you with an updated copy of the
And
calculation
one is, what would the water and sewer
fees and also from what the original unit fees would have been based on the current rates, because also in our bylaws, it does state that if rates change and you haven't paid your rate at that time, it doesn't stay at the same old rate, but it goes to what the new rates were. And so the current for 97 and the current for the reduced number of units being down to 60 units. In addition, those calculations, as is a custom, is what we have done since I have been here, and I think they have done in the past, is if there was existing buildings on the site, which there are here, they do get credits for the existing connection for the water and for the existing units being 10 EDUs, which is how we calculate. For a 2-bedroom, it's considered 1 EDU. For a 1-bedroom, it's considered a half of an EDU. So we did calculate based on the 2 buildings that are currently on site to give them credit back from that sewer fee. So those calculations are in there. There's an application fee included, which is standard for the administration part of it. There's fees in the water for the sprinkler line connections, which currently are not there, and tapping fee, which is one of the, basically for oversight of the connection itself at the water. You can see, so there's a water connection fee for all of the units would have been $25,000, which incorporates all those fees. And then when you reduce the number of units and the number of buildings, because they went from 4 buildings to 3 for the water, it's $17,100. On the sewer side, we have an application fee, again, the same way. And then we have our our units for our connection, our sewer connection fees, and then our privilege fee or betterment fee, which was present at the time of their application, because that hasn't changed. That's been the same fee the whole time. The reduction, the original for the complete units, it would be $1,087,900, and for the 60 units, it's $625,400. I think, you know, that's, I understand, I based the EDUs on all 2-bedroom units. I didn't have a breakdown of the new units of what it would be, so that is how it's based. It's based on all that. So the only thing I could see as a potential change. Because I didn't have how many one-bedroom units they were going to have or anything else, so I had to make a suggestion. I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened previously when the water and sewer rates were changed back in 2022. It was March 10th, 2022. It actually was before I was here. My predecessor had done a survey of multiple different communities to come up what the new rates were going to be. Area communities all over the map, Uxbridge, Southbridge, Oxford, Charlton, they kind of surveyed all over. And the rates, I know what the summary of the rates were. They were far ranging, but at the time, our rates were on the very, very low side. And they hadn't been raised in very many years. And that was one of the reasons why they were looking at raising them. So they did the survey and they tried to pick a midpoint, knowing that they didn't want to keep on going up and up and up every year if we needed to, but they wanted to be kind of on the right in that middle spot. So they had done a survey of different communities in the area of comparable size and different communities across the state. So that was looked at to make sure that our fees were similar in nature, but the fees do definitely range all over the place from the other communities. But we are not the highest and definitely not the lowest anymore. We're right in the midpoint.
I think that's good for now.
Yeah, and I will say that since I've been here, we have never waived fees for any project that we've had done calculations on. I try to be really consistent on how we do the fees so that everybody is treated exactly the same way. Our water and sewer department, you know, we have large capital needs coming up because our facilities are aging out, and fees for connecting is part of the way that we can offset those costs. If we don't, then our water and sewer our rate fees are going to go up. So if we started waiving our fees for our connections, we would see even higher water and sewer rates.
Okay, all right.
So Heather provided information on the fees, and what I did is I did a lot of research to see if I could ever find instances where fees were waived. In over 20 years of history that I reviewed, I found only one partial waiver of a fee, and that was for the Crescent Gate Senior Housing Development. When that friendly 40B was proposed, the applicant met with the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator at the time and worked to negotiate that fee, and then that fee was provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals from the Board of Selectmen. However, since that time, there have been no other cases where the fees were waived. There were some actually really notable cases too where, although not on the subsidized housing inventory, there were cases with affordable housing. For instance, in 2005, as some of you may know, the Sturbridge Retirement Co-op was under a DEP consent order to tie into public sewer or to develop their own on-site wastewater facility. They did meet with the Board of Selectmen. In fact, they met 9 times that I could count in 2005, and wanted some relief on the fees, the privilege fees, because it was serving a low-income community, and the Selectmen would not grant the waivers. The co-op withdrew their proposal and actually tried 3 times to receive community development block grant funding, and finally were successful to cover a portion of that, working with myself and the town of Brookfield, actually. And then in 2012, we built a house with Habitat for Humanity, and the fees were not waived at that time. And then a little different because it was commercial, but in, 2009, Pine Lake RV Resort bought the old Yogi Bear campground and renovated that completely, and wanted to run sewer because, again, he would need the on-site wastewater facility. So the cost of running the lines were $2.4 million to get the sewer to the facility, which he was willing to pay at his expense, but in exchange, he wanted the fees to be waived for the sewer privilege and tie-in fees, and the Board of Selectmen would not grant that. He withdrew his request and installed an on-site wastewater treatment facility. And then I do I do agree with Matt. He was a little taken aback when the fees were raised. I think he maybe misunderstood the fees at one point, and then the fees were increased. But that also happened to Blueberry Hill Estates. So they were in the permitting process. They had finished with, I believe, finished with Planning Board and Conservation, and were in the process of filing with DPW for, it was before your time. And we had no notice that the fees were being increased. So he completed his application, wanted the fees to be reduced to the old rate because he was in process, and that was denied. And he will have 68 units of manufactured housing, so again, not on the subsidized housing inventory, but an affordable form of senior housing in town. And he just paid $857,950 to connect those 68 units. In addition, he has to build his own booster station, and he has to become water operator certified, not sewerfied, certified, and/or hire a certified water operator for his site. So he was kind of faced with the same thing that NBM. So I think in reviewing the record, other than that one instance, I don't see any didn't see any willingness on the part of the Board of Selectmen to waive fees, even when applicants were willing to put in, $2.5 to $3 million to run new sewer lines that could have served other areas as well. So I can't tell you that we've applied the fees differently. I think the Board of Selectmen's been pretty consistent for the past 20 years with not granting those waivers.
Okay, thanks, Jane. All right, questions from the board? Josh, do you have questions for either the town planner, the DPW, or the applicant?
Yeah, a couple of questions. So, do you know what the proposed fee was at Pine Lake? That, I know he didn't end up going with it, but,
No, I don't have
Okay.
the breakdown calculations of.
because that was, presumably at the old rate pre-2022. Okay.
Correct.
I mean, like the select board talked about in '22, that was a substantial increase, but I understand the reasoning for it. But what I was hoping to see when I rewatched that meeting was a discussion about how it impacts multi-unit developments, and they were focused a lot on single-family homes, which, the $1,200 to $5,000 on a single-family home is, not all that significant, right, really, if you're buying a $500,000 or $600,000 home. But yeah, anyway, I guess that's besides the point. But my question, I think, to you, Heather, is, because it's also not clear to me in any of the documentation, I guess, on in other towns that I looked at, like how it applies at the unit level for multi-unit properties. Many towns, it seems like it applies under the commercial fee structure, which seems to me, and I'm not an expert in this, but to be based on more of like an estimated usage. But so can you maybe
So
tell me a little
I-
bit how
Yep.
Sturbridge works for commercial connections?
So we base, for commercial connections, or in this case, because it is still residential in nature, it's an apartment type situation, it's based on an EDU, which is an equivalent dwelling unit. So basically what it says is, that is why I spoke about EDUs and how many
Yeah.
EDUs so for a two-bedroom unit, they consider that one equivalent dwelling unit. So they basically equate that to one single-family house. For for one bedroom, that is considered a half EDU. It equivalates to about 200 gallons per day. In the way we do our commercial calculations, which this is not commercial, it will still based on that bedroom, because that's right in our sewer regs about how we calculate that. It's based on 200 gallons. If we were to determine how many EDUs, we base it on Title V calculations, which Title V is really for septic systems, but it has a chart in it on how you calculate how much sewer flow, and then you divide that by 200, and that gives you the number of EDU units. So it's still very similar to what other people are doing, but they are not changing it to an EDU. They're taking a Title V calculation and multiplying it by a rate. I was in another community, that's what we did. We had you do your Title V calculations, and we had a rate per number of gallons. So you basically paid at a rate. Here, we kind of, this is a way of just turning it into how many dwelling units or how many housing units are we looking at it in that way. Does that make sense?
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the privilege fee didn't change.
Our privilege fees did not change. That privilege fee has been the same.
That's the 75.
Yes,
Yeah.
per
The rate,
EDU.
what changed from the sewer side was only the connection, which is still by bedroom or by EDU, basically.
Maybe a silly question. What's the distinction between a connection fee and a privilege fee? Like,
It's just the way that it's divided in our regulations.
In the bylaws,
Yes, in
okay.
our regulations. Certain, so basically, a privilege fee is in an area where there was betterments paid. If you had already paid a betterment, you wouldn't pay the privilege. So there's lots out there in the town that paid a betterment fee when,
when the sewer line went in?
yes, and they don't have to pay a privilege fee at that time. And they're all logged, and we have that, so. But if there's an increase,
Property-
so if there's an increase, so if a property paid a betterment based on that same size at that time, and there's an increased usage for that lot coverage, for some reason the change of use, you pay that difference. That is why here we gave them credit for the existing 10 units that are there, and only charged them for the increase of the units.
Okay. I think that's it for right now, yeah.
Mary Ann?
No, I have no questions.
Liz?
I have the units that are there now, the two buildings, are they connected to water and sewer?
Yes.
Okay, so they're not involved with this at all?
No.
They're involved in the way that I gave them credit for having those connections.
Right, but then, okay. And the other, what was the project you said? What did we do to one project? We waived?
Oh, the one that was waived 20 years ago, the Crescent Gate.
Crescent Gate.
Okay.
They were given partial credit for the affordable units through negotiation with the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
But trust me, Janae's been going through all the Board of Selectmen's minutes. And,
Pretty tired of reading
yes.
them.
So there were very few cases where we could see where a waiver was requested and very few where they were actually waived.
Were there any multifamily projects built within the last 20 years?
That asked for a waiver?
Or in general?
No, we've had the mobile retirement communities, though, so that's all counted as one project with separate units, so really it would equate the same. So, for instance, the Sturbridge Retirement Co-op, there were 182 manufactured housing units, so those would be counted the same as the apartments.
I think that's where a big difference is for the cost of the water and sewer fees. When you're looking at either condominiums or single-family housing, those developments are going to be sold off fairly quickly, 1 to 5 years, and you're going to recoup the capital that you put into that. In this situation, developers who are developing multifamily are going to be financing that for 20 years. And running the numbers, you're paying double. So if the water fee is $1 million, you're paying $2 million. And it begins to disincentivize any production of housing in Sturbridge. That's why really no multifamily has been permitted in the last 20 years. So there is an obstacle, especially going through the housing production plan that was completed by the town. There's really no incentive for anyone to do any development of multifamily housing, and there hasn't been because of the fees for water and sewer. It's a little bit different of a transaction when you can't really offset those costs for 20 years. So that's why we're really asking for a reduction of it, so we can help the town increase their housing and rental capacity, help with the vacancy rate, and also help reach the 10% of affordability.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Has the properties that you've done currently that are multi-family, does that fall into the same, like,
All those units were already there. We essentially just renovated those. So as she said, those were already paid.
so there wasn't this, like, you didn't have to stem into it?
No, except for the latest one that we're doing now. There will be a water fee for it, but the rest were just renovations of existing units.
What about the former Rovesi's? That was a restaurant. That must have had the fee.
Yes, that one and the,
One on 148 too, with the one that burnt down, right?
Those were existing.
Those were
Those were
existing.
existing.
No further questions.
Liz, do you have more?
And Diane,
Well-
Jamie is here if you want to hear from
I
him.
could ask another question. So two of the proposals that came before the Sturbridge Water and Sewer that were denied sewer or found that it was too expensive, put on-site septic systems. Have you looked into that?
we've looked into on-site, but the site is actually pretty constrained with where the buildings are going, so it's not really a viable option.
And the sewer line's right there, so I'm not sure that would be an option. In the other cases, there was no sewer available. They would actually have to run the lines, but if the sewer's there, you need to tie into the town sewer.
Per Title V, which is a Mass state law, you can't put an on-site sewer system if there's sewer available.
Okay.
Do you want me to open it up to the,
I think you should ask the chair of the Board of Selectmen if he'd like to say anything.
So I'm not here as the Water and Sewer Commissioner. I guess I'm one fifth of one. There has not been a meeting specifically on this or a vote where this has been a forum. But I am obviously, as the chair, familiar with the board, and I can tell you that although I understand I am sympathetic in some regards to the circumstance that this is not the type of waiver that I would grant myself as one member of the board and a resident. I think if the policy needs to be altered, it shouldn't be done in this manner. And generally, this is the type of recommendation that we would follow Heather's advice on, and Heather's calculation says, I understand that makes sense. So I have no other real comment than that, but I appreciate all of your time for being here. Thank you.
thank you, Jamie. Let's see. Anybody else? Yeah, anybody, any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Any other comments or?
Yeah, just one more. So, you said 60,000 a year. That's principal and interest on, okay, for 20 or 10?
20.
20.
Can these units be, I know your plan is to do affordable housing and everything else, but can your units be switched from what your use is now to condos?
I haven't looked into that. We've looked into other options, but there's pretty much all the zoning regulations really don't allow you to do too much more. So.
I don't really have any comments or anything else. I was gonna say, everybody else kind of already said it, so we feel that we have enough information to make a decision. Board members, do you feel that we can close the public hearing? Okay, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the public hearing? Okay. All right, so we close the public hearing, so now we have to make a decision. And I need a motion.
A decision can be a continuance, right?
No,
just
we
closed
closed the
the hearing.
public hearing.
Okay, wonderful.
Because I asked if we needed any more information, and everybody said no, so we closed the public hearing.
Got it.
So now we have to make a decision on the waiving of the water and sewer fees. So do I have a motion, either way, of waiving the water fee and sewer fees for NBM Realty LLC for the project at 152-158 Main Street to allow a reduction, no, let's see, I don't want to say that. For the modification of a previous approved comprehensive permit in accordance with 760 CMR 56.05, parentheses 11, to allow reduction in units and the waiver of associated fees specified in condition A10 of the approval of the 40B, specifically water and sewer fees for the property location at 152-158 Main Street. Do I have either
I make a motion not to approve.
okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all right, now I want, I think I'll take a roll call vote of who is in favor of denying.
Madam Chair, excuse me.
Yes,
I think you should go on the record with why you're denying, so that,
Okay.
you know, did you
Okay.
find that the fees had been applied consistently?
yeah.
Want us to individually do that, or just?
No.
No,
I
as a-
think that the fees throughout the town have been, the fees have never been waived for any project, so we feel that this one does not deserve the waive. Is that,
With the exception of a project 20 years ago.
with the 20 years ago, since 20 years, there have been no waivers of water and sewer fees. Okay? Oh, you want-
Are we making, is this a discussion?
No, I think we're making
It's
a
your,
roll call.
it's your
I'm making-
reasoning for your
The
vote.
reasoning for the denial.
Yep.
Okay? Tom, in favor of the denial?
In favor of denial, yes.
In favor, Liz?
Yes, in favor of denial.
I'm in favor of the denial. Mary Ann?
Yes, I think it's only fair.
Yeah. Tom? I mean, Josh, sorry.
Ooh, did I miss something? I am in favor of the denial, but I guess, again, just for the record, I think we should look at, from the DPW perspective, if multi-units should have a different configuration in fee structure, and specifically whether or not other towns look at multi-families, multi-units differently.
And I agree.
I
oh,
see the
sorry.
distinction with the condos and single-family units that are sold off. It seems reasonable, so.
I
agree
agree,
with that,
I
too.
agree. I think in the future that, especially for 40Bs, affordable housing, that I think the town should be able to do something, either not waive completely or give a break or something like that. Okay, so the motion is denied.
Your next meeting is February 19th.
Yes. Do we have any applications yet?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. And are there any old or new business?
I was just going to say, but you will have one,
Okay.
so.
Old or new business? I, I just want to just say it again, that I think that in the future, I think maybe we can all get together and kind of do something with sewer fees and water fees for affordable housing. That's all I have for new business. All right, motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.